America's had yet another mass shooting, this time taking place in the area of Denver and Lakewood. The individual who's been identified as the shooter has been taken into custody after killing 5 people and wounding at least 2 others, including, from the early reports, what we're being told, a police officer that he shot. She then shot and killed him in retaliation. And so he's been identified as Lyndon James McLeod, a 47-year-old. And the police said that he had been on their radar. We don't have a lot of information about what that means. They say that they had investigated him in mid 2020 and early 2021, but that neither inquiry had resulted in charges. We don't know exactly what those investigations look like. Although in this case, we do know quite a bit about what this person apparently believes. Some of what they believe about different groups, about women, about the use of violence. And so we can start to fill in a bit of the picture. We do know that he apparently knew most of the victims. He is not believed to have known the last person he shot, a clerk at a hotel, but police said that she might have been targeted owing to a dispute with the hotel. So very often, we don't know much about these mass shooters. And by the way, let me just throw out there, if you don't care, I get it. I get it. Like, we can try to learn lessons, but these lessons in America can only be so helpful because no matter how much we learn about what causes people to engage in acts of mass violence like this, generally with guns, we also know that we live in a country that's probably never gonna do anything about it. So don't expect that us having a clear picture of who this person is necessarily is gonna stop these things from happening in the future. But that said, Lyndon McLeod was apparently an author dedicated to alt-right philosophies, including masculine supremacy, contrarian COVID-19 beliefs, and targeted violence against the weak. Now, this might seem to sort of narrow it down, but we also know that that describes an ever increasing amount of the country, other than perhaps the author part. He apparently had a lot of Twitter and Instagram accounts under the alias Roman McClay. And with it, he talked about a 3-book series he wrote called Sanction. This book has been described in Amazon Review as eloquent reflection. He wrote this, by the way, eloquent reflections on dominance, hierarchies, psychology, technology, nature, violence, anatomy and physiology, sexual morality, drug use, politics, and a whole mess of stuff. And it follows a character that apparently is him. And in these books, he kills dozens and dozens of people, including in events very similar to the mass shooting that he conducted. And so you, like me, might be very frustrated that he's describing things that he might want to do. That said, people write a lot of crazy things. JR, what do you make of this?
So we're going into the details of this guy's background, potentially his motivations, potentially how he's just not really connected to reality all that much, because he's trying to live out his fantasies, which he wrote in a fictional book. So is he a good guy or a bad guy?
In his mind?
No, in Wayne LaPierre's mind, in the NRA's mind, in conservative thought mind, is he a good guy or is he a bad guy? Because that's the basis for whether or not we're gonna, be spreading guns around. A reason why we must spread guns around, because you need a good guy with a gun to make sure that you confront the bad guy with the gun. Was he a bad guy? Where does that start? Because he wrote about it, then he began the shooting. Was he a bad guy when he was already on the police's radar? Was he a bad guy when he was already thinking about it? And it's a thought process now going. If we didn't have this influx of millions of guns across the country, it wouldn't matter if he's a good guy or bad guy. It wouldn't matter if he's about to go off and commit these crimes and start killing people indiscriminately, or to fulfill his fantasies in his fictional book. It wouldn't matter. But instead, because we have all these guns and we've caused this influx of them, because we say stupid things like we need more good guys with guns than bad guys with guns, then we end up with more situations like this, where then, as you said, not much will happen, because what can you do now? We already have the influx of guns. We're already over drowning in these guns now. So the good guy with a gun and the bad guy with a gun doesn't make any difference anymore, because everybody's got them. So the bad guys got them and the good guys got them. And if the bad guy sneaks up on you and shoots your family up, it doesn't matter how many good guys are around. Everybody's got the guns. So we've put this whole thing into this good guy, bad guy, 5-year-old cops and robbers thing, when it's actually affecting people's lives. We just did a story yesterday about that girl in the Burlington Coat Factory that got shot by cops because there was more good guys that ran up in the store and shot up the assailant and the girl.
Yep.
This is the problem.
Yeah, Yeah, well, and also like I think one of the things that makes what you just said so fair is that like right up and like obviously they're not going to claim that once he began killing people he was a good guy, but right up until then he was acting exactly as they say that you should.
Totally.
You should be obsessed with all of the things he says he has eloquent reflections on. You should be obsessed with sexual morality and people who use drugs, and you should have this like old school idea of what women should be like and about being an alpha wolf and all this. You should do all those things. But so that they can't actually be warning signs. Like the police were looking into him. All of this stuff in hindsight seems like a lot of red flags that this guy was gonna do what he did, but not from the point of view of the right wingers. He was espousing the exact worldview that they like. And I'll ask them one question. So we know that the police looked into him both earlier this year and in 2020. Wouldn't it have been better if they'd taken his guns? Wouldn't the world be a much better place if they'd taken every gun he had and stopped him from getting another gun? Isn't that always the case in these situations? But they won't say it. Like they literally won't respond to that question. They don't have the guts to actually do so.
For more political news breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/thedamagereport. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.